Hey, I'm really glad you found this tonight. I don't know what kind of day you've had. Maybe it was exhausting. Maybe it was lonely. Maybe nothing terrible happened. And yet, for some reason, your heart still feels heavy. Sometimes that's how loneliness works. It doesn't always arrive after something bad happens. Sometimes it quietly sits beside us, even on completely ordinary days. And before we realize it, the room feels a little quieter. Our thoughts become a little louder. And suddenly, being by ourselves doesn't feel peaceful anymore. It just feels empty. If that's why you're here tonight, then I'm really happy you pressed play. Because for the next little while, you don't have to sit with that feeling by yourself. You don't have to impress anyone. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to pretend you're stronger than you actually feel. Tonight, you can simply exist exactly as you are. Nothing more, nothing less. Before we do anything else, I'd like you to get just a little more comfortable. If you're lying in bed, let your pillow support your head. If you're sitting somewhere, allow your shoulders to soften. Notice if you've been clenching your jaw without realizing it. Very gently, let it relax. Good. That's already enough. You don't have to do this perfectly. There isn't a right way to listen. There isn't a right way to rest. Just let yourself be here with me for one quiet night. Can we try something together? Nothing complicated. Just one slow breath. Ready? Very slowly. Inhale. And now, exhale. Even slower. Again, a deep breath in, as if you're making a little more room inside your chest. And breathe out, letting the day become just a tiny bit lighter. That was wonderful. Maybe your breathing still feels shaky. Maybe your mind is racing. That's okay. We're not trying to force calm. We're simply making a little space for it. Sometimes that's enough. You know, people talk about loneliness as if it's only about being physically alone. But I don't think that's always true. Some of the loneliest people are surrounded by others every single day. They smile, they answer messages, they laugh at the right moments. They say, "I'm fine," almost automatically, because after saying it enough times, it becomes easier than explaining what's really happening inside. Maybe you know that feeling. Maybe you've walked through an entire day with hundreds of thoughts in your mind without telling a single person. Maybe people looked at you and assumed everything was okay, not because they didn't care, but because you became so good at hiding how tired you really were. That takes so much energy, more than most people realize. Pretending you're okay is exhausting. Holding everything inside is exhausting. Trying to be the strong one all the time is exhausting. If nobody has told you this recently, let me say it now. You don't have to earn rest. You don't have to prove that you're tired enough. You don't need permission to have difficult days. You're allowed to feel exactly what you're feeling tonight without apologizing for it. Sometimes we become so used to carrying everything that we forget what it feels like to put the weight down. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack every single day. At first, it's uncomfortable, but after weeks or months, you stop noticing the weight. Not because it became lighter, but because your body simply adapted to it. Then one day, someone helps you take it off, and suddenly you realize how heavy it actually was. I wonder if you've been carrying something like that. Maybe it's stress, maybe disappointment, maybe grief, maybe guilt, maybe loneliness itself, or maybe it's something you haven't even found words for yet. Whatever it is, you don't have to explain it tonight. I'm not here to judge it. I'm only here to sit beside you while you rest from carrying it, even if it's just for a little while. I want you to notice something right now, at this exact moment. Nothing is asking anything from you. Nobody expects an answer. Nobody needs you to solve a problem. Tonight belongs to you. Can I tell you something? Loneliness has a very convincing voice. When we're tired, it whispers things that sound true. It says, "No one understands you." It says, "Nobody notices." It says, "You'll always feel like this." But loneliness isn't a fortune teller. It doesn't know your future. It only speaks from your pain. The fact that you feel alone tonight doesn't mean you'll always feel alone. Our minds often mistake right now for forever, and they're rarely the same thing. So tonight, we're not going to think about forever. Forever is too big. Instead, let's stay here, just in this moment, just this breath, just this quiet room, just the gentle sound of rain and the simple comfort of knowing someone is here with you. Because you don't have to carry this night alone. Not anymore. You know, there's something different about nighttime. During the day, everything moves so quickly. People are talking, cars are passing by, phones keep buzzing. There's always something demanding our attention. It's almost impossible to hear ourselves think. But when the sun goes down, everything becomes quieter. And in that quiet, our thoughts finally have room to speak. Sometimes they whisper. Sometimes they shout. And if you've had a difficult day, they often choose the middle of the night to remind you of every worry, every mistake, every unanswered question. If that's happening to you right now, I want you to know you're not doing anything wrong. Your mind isn't broken. It's simply trying, in its own imperfect way, to protect you. So tonight, we're not going to argue with those thoughts. We're not going to fight them. We're simply going to let them pass, the way clouds pass across the night sky. They don't need to disappear immediately. They just don't need all of your attention. Listen carefully for a moment. Can you hear the rain? Maybe it's coming through your headphones. Maybe it's only in your imagination. Either way, let it become the loudest thing in your world. Not your worries, not your memories, just the rain. Every tiny drop landing gently outside, steady, patient, never rushing. Almost as if the entire world has decided to slow down just for tonight. Imagine you're sitting in a small room. A warm lamp glows softly in the corner. Its light isn't bright. It doesn't need to be. It's just enough to make the room feel safe. The rain taps gently against the window. A blanket rests over your shoulders. The air feels cool, but the room feels warm. There's nowhere else you need to be. No one expecting anything from you. Only this quiet moment. Only this peaceful space. Only the feeling that for once, you can finally breathe without rushing. Stay here with me. There's no hurry. Sometimes, when we're lonely, our mind starts collecting evidence. It remembers every message that wasn't answered, every invitation that never came, every goodbye, every disappointment, every person who walked away. It stacks them together until it feels impossible to believe anything else. But have you noticed something? Our minds rarely collect the opposite evidence. The stranger who smiled at us, the friend who checked in, the teacher who believed in us, the small moments that reminded us we mattered. Those memories become strangely quiet, almost invisible, not because they never happened, but because pain has a habit of making shadows look larger than light. So tonight, I'd like to gently borrow your attention, just for a moment. Think back to any time in your life when someone made you feel safe. It doesn't have to be a huge memory. Maybe someone handed you a cup of tea. Maybe someone waited for you. Maybe someone asked, "Did you get home safely?" Maybe someone smiled at you on a day you desperately needed it. Hold that memory like a tiny candle. It doesn't have to light the whole room, just enough to remind you that kindness exists, that warmth exists, that connection exists, even if it feels far away tonight. And if you genuinely can't think of anyone right now, that's okay too. Don't force it. Instead, borrow this moment. Borrow my voice. Borrow the sound of the rain. Borrow the feeling that someone wanted to make this recording, simply so another person wouldn't have to feel completely alone tonight. Because that's true. You didn't have to earn this moment. You didn't have to deserve it. You simply arrived, and that's enough. I wonder how long you've been carrying this feeling. Days, weeks, months, maybe even longer. Sometimes loneliness doesn't happen all at once. Sometimes it grows quietly. One canceled plan, one difficult conversation, one season of life changing into another, one goodbye after another, until eventually we look around and realize the world somehow feels different, smaller, quieter, more distant. But feelings like these are not permanent homes. They're weather. Some storms stay longer than we'd like. Some nights feel endless. But eventually, morning always arrives. Not because we force it, not because we deserve it, simply because that's what mornings do. Can we do something together? Very slowly, place one hand over your chest. No pressure. Just let it rest there. Feel the warmth of your own hand. Feel your breathing. Maybe you can even feel your heartbeat if you stay still enough. That's your body reminding you, I'm still here. I'm still trying. I'm still carrying you. Every heartbeat has quietly stayed with you through every difficult day you've survived, even the ones you thought would break you. Your heart never asked if tomorrow would be easier. It simply kept beating, one moment after another. And maybe that's all we're doing tonight. We're not solving your entire life. We're simply making it to the next peaceful breath, then the next, and then the one after that. Sometimes healing doesn't happen in giant steps. Sometimes it happens one quiet breath at a time. You're safe here. Nothing needs to be fixed. Nothing needs to be proven. Nothing needs to happen except allowing yourself to rest for a little while longer. We'll stay here for as long as you need. There's something I've been thinking about while we've been sitting here together. I wonder how many things you've kept inside that nobody else knows about. Not because you wanted to hide them, but because you didn't know how to explain them. Sometimes there aren't enough words. How do you explain being tired without being sleepy? How do you explain missing something when you don't even know what it is? How do you explain feeling lonely even when people are around you? Those feelings can be difficult to describe. Sometimes they don't even make sense to us. And yet, they're still real. Maybe you've become the kind of person who says, it's okay, even when it isn't. Maybe you've become so used to protecting everyone else's feelings that you've forgotten what it feels like to let someone protect yours. You answer, I'm good. I'm just tired. It's nothing. You smile because it's easier. You laugh because it keeps people from asking questions. And eventually, after saying those words enough times, even you begin to believe them. Until until one quiet night, like tonight, everything you've been holding back finally catches up with you. Can I tell you something? I don't think tears are a sign that someone has reached their limit. I think sometimes tears are simply what happens when the heart finally feels safe enough to stop pretending. If you've cried recently, or maybe you're trying very hard not to, I hope you don't feel ashamed. There is nothing embarrassing about having a heart that feels deeply. There is nothing weak about wanting comfort. Every single person, no matter how confident they seem, needs kindness, needs reassurance, needs someone to sit beside them without trying to fix everything. Sometimes I imagine loneliness as a room with mirrors. Every mirror reflects the same fears over and over again. What if nobody really understands me? What if I'm too much? What if I'm not enough? What if I always feel this way? The reflections seem endless. But here's the strange thing about mirrors. They only reflect what's standing in front of them. They don't show what's waiting outside the room. They don't show the people you'll meet next year, the conversations that haven't happened yet, the laughter that hasn't found you yet, the version of yourself that hasn't had a chance to grow yet. Sometimes, when we're hurting, our future quietly disappears, not because it isn't there, but because pain narrows our vision. It tells us, this is all there is. This feeling will never leave. This empty room is your whole world. But feelings, even very convincing ones, aren't always telling the truth. Think about the weather. A cloudy sky can make us believe the sun has disappeared. But the sun never actually leaves. It's simply hidden for a little while. In many ways, hope works the same way. Sometimes you can't see it, but that doesn't mean it isn't there.